Sylvia. I am the acting director of the Arts, Design and Architecture Museum at UCSB. I would like to, before going on with the introductions, I'd like to request a round of applause to our museum interns for putting together such a beautiful reception. Thank you so much. I'd like to extend my gratitude to Kitchell, who's our sponsor, and who actually gives us some support to organize this series of lectures on architecture and design, as well as to all of you for being here today and for supporting this event. It is very humbling as a new acting director of the museum to find such a great response from the community. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, my deepest gratitude goes to our speakers here tonight. They've put a lot of effort, time in here in preparing this presentation and to make us believe that this is all spontaneous. So, it is an honor to me to introduce you to John Saladino. John Saladino was born in Kansas City, Missouri, in a European family. His father was a physician. He was educated in Rome, and he introduced John to all the wonders of the antique world. As a child, John was also entranced by the American West and the cowboy culture. John calls himself a romantic by birth, a minimalist by training, and a lover of all the classical world by choice. Possibly medically also split personality there. After graduating from Yale with a master's degree in art, John lived and worked in Rome. Returning to New York City, he met the love of his life, Virginia Lee Hendrick, whose southern gentility reigned in John's impatient nature, and introduced him to the successful effects of using a velvet hammer on his clients. John's professional career was launched in 1964, and his office grew up to include 43 staff members. In addition to architecture, interior design, landscape architecture, John has designed a very successful 70-piece furniture collection, which is actually still on, he sells it at New York, in his New York showroom and on the internet, along with the fabric collection. And throughout his life, he has crafted a very unique style which combines the modern and the classic, the humble and the rare. It produces a style that is unique and that is excellent and very elegant and sensual in its outcome. So thank you, John, for being here tonight. Along with him are attorney and cultural writer Lorie Porter and the architect Michael Porter. So please join me in welcoming them to the stage.
The light is so bright in here, you can cure polio. So thank you, Sylvia, for my early obituary. So I can save you a lot of time later when it happens. But these two sweet people are very good friends of mine. They're in street clothing now, but this is really my nurse, and I'm 80 years old, so we're going to start the lecture with the most recent things, in case I don't make it all the way through. This is a very costly residence. It took 265 sheets of drawings, and we worked on those for a year and a half and 4 years to build. And it's in Northern California. This was around the 10th of December when we were trying to make the house look inviting for Christmas. So the Christmas trees, of course, part of this lecture is about scar tissue. So, of course, the Christmas trees were too short, even though I told repeatedly what size they would be. But anyway, that's the beginning of what happens with all these projects. Great client, and you'll see in a second how large the house is. So that's the, I always detest what we Americans use for the back of a house. We call it, oh, your yard is so big. It's not a yard, it's a garden. The yard is what prisoners exercise. So this is a, what I call a brave lady in the house. It's very inspired by Palladio, but it's also a sort of Regency version of Palladio. And it's also modern. You will see as we go inside how that occurs. But this is a, wait a minute, Michael. I just want to say it's an estate. The swimming pool is 75 feet long, and then you have the guest house, which is sort of like a dumbbell in plan. The whole center opens, and the two wings are for guests. So if you were to snap a line and go from the front door, the axis would carry you all the way through across the pool, through the pool pavilion guest house, through a box, the rhododendron forest, and then finally to the tennis court. So the clients took this was a lifetime project in a way, with them to find the land. So I didn't cut down one big tree, so that was not easy. Now, scar tissue comes from the fact that the contractor, handsome from Ireland, charming, but he was used to building quickly and doing these sort of what I call terrible Tuscans, these several houses. So he had a rude awakening how long it took to build this. This is 4.5 years. Anyway, when I started the house, I was 6'3". Now so this is the entrance and part of it. The walls are scratch coat plaster. So that's the most humble kind of plaster, normally reserved for the undercoat. You always cover that with white plaster. And I don't like doors that are a foot lower than the crown molding. So it's kind of modern to push the door all the way up and to overscale the crown molding. The ceiling in here is rip-sawn California cedar #2. That means it's sort of scrofulous, it's not sanded, and #2 means there's little knots in it. So I wanted this house not to look like some huge nouveau riche bombastic edifice, but something that had the humility of what wood actually used to look like before it was embalmed. So this is part of the living room. This is the day after we arrived. We were quickly putting this all together. We had I had a wonderful person who, kind enough, after 60 years of friendship, agreed to come and do Christmas trees and the decorations. So I have my hats off to Linda White, who's here too. So anyway, this is important in my explaining to you that you never should design big houses. You should design big little houses. So these rooms are actually human in scale. They do have 11-foot high ceilings, but you could put that living room into this room twice. So we're not doing a house for some movie refugee, you know. This is really for nice people. Anyway. I said I'd give you scar tissue, so. This is the son's bathroom, and my client picked out the marble. I thought she did an amazing job. And in a big house, you always do small windows because that brings the reference down to a human scale. So you can open that up. These are little leaded windows. windows, and I have those in all the bedrooms. So instead of opening a 10-foot high glass door, you open a little tiny window, it keeps you feeling secure, and you get just enough air. And this is a Shaker-inspired house that a wonderful friend of mine and a longtime client who has suffered me 38 years, she and her late husband built a house, which I was the architect for the house. And this was a window over the bathtub. So I'm very fond of using devices that reward you at the end of an access. So if you have the most humble apartment with 2 bedrooms and you're walking down a 3-foot wide corridor, the end of that journey should be something on the wall that rewards you. A barometer, a painting, a pedestal, and I do that over and over again to conclude all access with a reward.
John, I was going to ask you about this because you've got this looking outward, but this creates the inward look.
Well, that's also yin-yang with the big scale and then the exaggerated, a miniature scale. The little mirror underneath is an American, very rare courting mirror done with mercury glass. And when a man was very interested in a lady and wished to marry her, he gave her, this would have been in a tiny thin wood box, and that is mercury glass. So you know, mercury glass is beautiful, but the men who made the glass died early from mercury poisoning. So I like to do large with miniature and rare with humble. And this is for a Greek client, and I brought part of their culture into, this is an apartment in New York, and so when you don't have windows and you don't have really big powder rooms, there's 2 things in a house that people absolutely judge you by: your powder room and your coffee table. So, if you don't have a gorgeous powder room, someone comes out and says, "My God, that's beautiful," then you fail. Anyway, so this is a little niche with 1 bud vase for 1 flower. And this is actually, ladies tend to use the powder room as an opportunity to gossip. So 2 ladies go to, yes, and they sit. One sits here on the settee, and the other one makes magic with makeup. And then another one can go around, pull the draperies, and answer the call of nature. Now this is a very large house done with lots of ancient stone. And it was available in the early 90s when China was building their dam. You could buy whole villages, all the streets, and so that's what we did here. So this is the back of the house, and again, it's kind of dumbbell in plan. This is the living room, which is 24 feet high, and this is the dining room, and it has, this is the bedroom above it, and there's a catwalk on the other side. So I'm trying to make you feel as though you've come to a ruin on a stylebate, or what was once the foundation of a city. And then all of this, of course, hopefully when you feed it, you use buttermilk and what is it, some sort of verdigris, and creates a moisture, and then moss starts to grow in between. Next. So this is the inside. So the stone floor, this is like from Richard Norton's the great modernist. You take the material, one material, and you take it through the house and out onto the terrace. So that is the same stone. And then Michael always likes me to talk about, I often put concealed lights at the bottom of a pier. These are 18th century Venetian original old glass sconces. And then to make a big dining room, double as a space where you entertain people, you look at books, so it's not just a table that you use only for Christmas and Easter, but I do high back sofas, so that can make a cozy zone in a huge dining room. So you can have just a couple over and feel cozy, and the fire's going next. So now you see, there's the dining room with one wall of paneling. That high back sofa somewhere here, you can't see it. And then I took bunches of lolly columns. This is what normally you put in your basement. And they're in clusters of 4, and they create that spacing between the actual place where the dining table goes and where you walk. These, I use 3 kinds of chairs in a dining room of this size. So it doesn't look like William Randolph Hearst ordered all the furniture at once. This is gauze slip covers over these. These are chairs meant more for ladies because they're slightly smaller, and then I have big ones for men. At any rate, this helps lead you towards the kitchen. Now, here again is a picture of the dining room. These are electric operating. They're unbleached, sort of the humblest kind of linen. And now you're in a small, very small family room in this huge house. So I love to overscale fireplaces in rooms of small size. So it's just the opposite of what people now do. If you go into Burnham Wood into the bar, there's a fireplace in there that looks like it was in someone's 1942 rumpus room. It's only about of course, bigger than this. So, I mean, you know, you don't bring them all. That's part of the scar tissue, is to go into spaces you haven't designed and then have to live with it.
So, John, I want to talk a little bit about the columns, because you've grouped them in 4s. You've really created they're modern, but they've got the base, bonding, and then basically the capital. And these are tractor buckets.
Well, those were inspired by the bucket loaders on the earth moving machines. So literally, I made these in miniature. There was the most wonderful young blacksmith, and he made those for me. And they can tilt back and go straight up. There is a light they're not on. There's one round light in the middle of the 4 columns. So I also like, with lighting, you know, most people will build a costly house or a pretty expensive apartment or something, and they go out at the last month and they buy 4 lamps for the living room. Yeah. You have to have 3 kinds of light. So you have to have an overall ambient light that you can't tell where it comes from. So it can be a soft lighting hidden, and then you have what I call work light. That's the lamps that you read by. And then you have art light, which is the candlesticks and the lights on the floor that light up. And those are the 3 kinds of lighting you should have in every room. And you should be able to dim all the lights at once, so you don't run around, fooling with switches on every lamp. Now this is, Lorie likes to talk about this. This is long before restoration hardware existed.
Or stole everything
And
from
so the first issue was almost stolen from this house. This is an I-beam here, and those are candles. This was done in 1989. And so this was a little delicious bit of gossip. When I would go into an antique shop, I always carried with me John Saladino stickers. They're like, you know, Post-its. And if I saw something, I would just slap it right on there, like so. And then I could run around the whole shop and go back and pay the bill. Well, Robert De Niro is not the brightest person in the world, and he's been looking at these for days. And so I just went in there, and I know instantly what's good. I just slapped those on there. Well, you know, he's not exactly a sweet guy, so he was very unhappy. So anyway, we got these for taxidermy cabinets, clean them, paint them, Robin's egg glue, and you see all the dishes. Anyway, this was, again, taking a huge room and bringing down the scale. I had actually concealed uplighting at the top of those cabinets. What's important too, if you were to remove these objects, the room becomes very harsh. So you need some clutter. You need the humanity of things that maybe an old pickling jar you got from your grandma. Those things make human a kitchen. And this is the one half of the living room. So it's 24 feet high, and this is Ann Sultan, Adams, and Kiefer, sorry. And there's a pair of these. So one is over this mantle, and over the other end of the room, it hangs over a high-back sofa. The center here is an Irish, I hate to say it, wake table. And sometimes they call it hunting table, so it sells. But they use that to lie out the deceased. So people don't exactly want to buy that kind of table. They were renamed hunt tables in the 19th century. Anyway, this is some of my furniture, and these are on wheels, and these can be used as pull-up chairs in the living room, or you can use them in the dining room, and then they come with an extra kidney cushion. But the nice thing about this kind of chair, there's concealed fiberglass wheels, which is nice because you can roll yourself up to the table, and after, 3 glasses of wine, you just roll back. Now this is the part, I wish I had a better slide of this. Michael did wonder, and Lorie, putting together this whole lecture from magazine articles and stuff, because we did everything from here. Anyway, to make a huge space intimate. This is a 24-foot high entrance hall to match the living room, but I put a fireplace so you can practically walk into it. But this becomes a very nice place to heat yourself and take off your boots when it's raining out. And the window above is about 10 to 12 feet high, and I corbelled the flues. So one flue goes up and the other one goes up. So that's 2 flues, and the window is in the middle. And it's like a guard or sentry duty space. To be in a castle where it's cold, you would stay guard in this warm place. So again, it's part of big scale, little scale. This is New York City high floor apartment. These are my first villa chairs, I call them, and they're slip covered. Slip covers in the dining make a lot of sense because you pre-wash the fabric so it already shrinks before you have slip covers made. And I always say make 2 pairs. If someone spills pasta all over that, you don't get upset. You send them off to be washed and put the other one in from the closet you put on top. Now, if you look at this slide carefully, it is my training now at Yale as a painter. I'm concerned with the negative spaces as well as the positive. So, and it's very layered with geometric form. So there's no pattern. So you can come back to this room in 20 years, and that's what I mean by classical. It doesn't date itself. It's not. It doesn't. Can you imagine if I had done that in Santa Fe style? So this is the table I designed. I call it the Millennium Table to celebrate the coming of age of America. And then this is, you see here, Venetian glass cruet in more intense shade periwinkle blue. So I'm playing with color up and down, but I'm also playing with simple, absolutely simple geometric forms. So rectangles, this is a rectangle, that's a drum. Again, this is a round 18th century English drop leaf tea table. So, and that's a collection of Delft plates. And this was a huge chemical beaker who had branches in it, you know. This is the way in New York to afford a florist. You go one time and buy the dogwoods, which is $300, and then you just let them die and you keep them that way. They're beautiful. There should be also a light behind that to light that up. There would be a light behind that column. So
John, what I liked about that you pointed out that. So like the thing that I find intriguing about John is he talked about classicism and modernism, but the light and space artists always used color pop. So this piece ties all of this together and makes your eye move around. Can you talk about this wall and that fabric?
well, the wall is I like metamorphic color. I like colors that are maybe beige in the daylight and turn to taupe at night. And so this is kind of strange elephant color. And the draperies, which are the really inexpensive nylon, they were metamorphic. So they went from taupe to highlights of periwinkle blue to pick up the color of the slip covers in. And even the sandblasted glass starts to take on the color reflected off the upholstery. So this is like orchestrating a painting. Think of a Vermeer. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make extremely serene, emotional spaces that are not confrontational, but actually intrigue you. I always say, if you walk into a room and you can understand the whole thing at once, it's a failure. Rooms should be hypnotic so that you want to go back to them and then go back again. That's what this class is all about. That's what doesn't betray you. And here's some sketches. The first house, which is really large, it has everything you could ever want as an adult play person. So this is the wine tasting table. It has Cantellic white marble. I had Peter Kitchell, when I was in my 20s, teach me. He was the most authoritarian person and authoritative both on wine. And came to the office, you know, those were 1965 or so, in a suit, tie, with clips around his trousers because his bicycle to the office. And he carried the bicycle in. I mean, that's style. I mean, that doesn't happen anymore. And he told me you need white marble so that when you hold up a glass of wine, you can see exactly what the color is against the white marble. And then this is a sketch of what happens underneath is a place for you to grab with your fingers and wheel yourself into the table or whatever. So I did Kitchell as the second oldest company in America. First was the Bank of New York. And there was a wonderful man, extremely good looking. They called him the Silver Fox. And he went to Yale, and he was, I met him downtown, and I got to do a lot of Wall Street work. And then he left Wall Street and moved uptown to Shefflin and Company, which was Dutch. And he's the one that got me to meet Peter Kitchell. So a series of, by chance, meetings certainly advanced my career. To meet someone at my age who, I mean, I was nobody, really, and I met here the most, it's like Mr. Parker now is the most authoritarian person on wine. So anyway, this is a cart. There's a wine tasting room which is lined with wine cabinets all the way around that are lit from the back. And then there's a wine room for taking apart crates. So this is an island in the middle. It's got big industrial wheels. And you can put crates of wine underneath. And these are handles for the towels. And this is for strange shaped magnums underneath. But you can just wheel that around or in. And they're very big on having wine tasting parties. So And now you see the Vermeer, the still life, my total dedication to simplicity and geometry will never betray you. So this is my chair now with a pillow in the back that can be used for dining or pull-out. And this was inspired by a table, his name was Poncho, it's in Pompeii, and it was Lucretio Ponto, anyway, but it had 4 legs. And I was always tripping over, I don't particularly like coffee tables, but you have to go down to them. I like tea tables, because you just reach out. So this is 21 inches high, and at least you don't trip on 2 quarters. So this pivots, it's got wheels, 5 wheels underneath it. This is my well-known Pyrex glass lamp. I couldn't find lamps, and I said, I'm going to design a non-lamp, a lamp that you can use in any environment, and it won't betray you. And that comes in that white shade, or it comes in brown paper. And I believe I'm the one who invented using, butcher's paper for lampshades, because it replaced the tallow glow candles. And anyway, there's one of my paintings. But you're seeing, I paint occasionally, not so much anymore, but this is the balance between the pale periwinkle blue wall and then the subdued, dry, color field brown paint. There's the same fabric I was telling you about. I had the most amazing upholsterer, and he's gone to his reward, but he could make panels like this with fabric hinges. Try to get someone under 30 to do that. Now we're into some of the corporate work. I was lucky in life. I met a man shorter than I am with lots more money, and he owned very rich. And he was a developer, a gentleman builder developer. They don't exist anymore. He was the last of his kind. And I would design these 52-story towers for him and do all the interiors on the floors, but we call them the amenity floors, and in the lobby. Because you learn quickly that if someone's got, these are all rental apartment buildings. So if someone's coming through that revolving door, you have about 10 seconds to win them over. So this is wood paneling, and this is all my furniture. And again, breaking the scale down, this huge room with intimate spaces. So, and it was a device we used over and over again. In the lobby, the revolving door, pairs of straight doors, like for a wheelchair, would be in the center. And then on either side, like a dumbbell, you would have smaller seating groups. And this is when he actually thought I walked on water, because when you own 40 buildings, you can imagine the dry cleaning bill for your curtains once a year. So these are chain link curtains, so they're totally maintenance free, and they can be vacuumed. And so after that, I could do no wrong. And here's one of my buildings. So he was so scared because this was historic preservation, the earliest Catholic church, about 1830 in New York. So there was nothing next to it. I mean, he had torn it down. So I had to make a building that would keep the building department happy, the historic preservation people happy, the client happy, the bishop of the Catholic Church. So they arrived, and all these people came into my conference room, and my client sort of sat off to one side, didn't say one word. And so I won the day because I told them that the columns were inspired by the temple. You can see there it really is. And now that was an outdoor space, and I paved it with those blocks that you see in Europe that make fish scale patterns. And that, again, is impervious to salt and winter and all that. In all the buildings, I did polished granite bases about 3 feet high because that was so practical against snow blowers and naughty dogs. So, anyway. Now, let's talk about scar tissue. This is a wonderful building. At least I'm so proud of it because, again, dumbbell plan, revolving door in the middle, and 2 lobbies on either flanking it. So I've been in the country. My late wife and I had a wonderful life in Connecticut. We went every weekend. I go antiquing sometimes, and I found this pair of gorgeous Doric columns, probably from a church or a public building. I date them about 1830, 1820, and I bought them, and this is real structural right here. So I put these here. They have no significance except they're beautiful. And this is all my furniture. Again, it's meant to be, you know, small, cozy, intimate. You always have intimate with big. And the tapestry brought a lot of color into a lobby. He didn't want color in the lobby. And then these were inspired by engineers' survey instruments. And I did that with glass tops. So one day, they had a couple who bought a rented apartment, 2 doctors, husband and wife, and sadly, they had 2 autistic children. So the mother comes down with the 5-year-old, and the nanny's there, and the mother and the nanny are talking, and the child goes up and licks the columns, and I'm going to make this really short. So I've spent my life trying to make beauty. So before I knew it, I was being sued because the child became autistic because of my columns. Anyway, the columns were no longer mine anyway. They were sold to the client, and the paint had to go for analysis, and it was modern paint, didn't have lead in it, and the child already had a history of autism. Anyway, it finally went to the Supreme Court, and they threw it out because I didn't own the columns. I sold the columns to the client. So after that, I said to the attorneys for the other people, I was so angry. I said, you know, I've spent my whole life making beauty, and I'm happy to say that to my grandchildren. What do you tell your grandchildren? What do you do? So anyway. So kind of inspired by Karnak, going through the temple and towards this secret door that goes nowhere. So this is travertine, but it's silver travertine. And I've installed it the way you find it in nature. It doesn't grow vertically, it grows horizontally. And I honed it, and oh, it was a big fight, but finally let me install it, not this building, but the next one, without any filler in all the holes. This is not marble, it's volcanic stone. And it makes an emotional journey while you wait for the elevator. And this is this is the largest building I designed. It had 2 lobbies. Again, here you see the chain link hanging, and I'm making ceremonial statement. The Arabs have a phrase that I just love, which is narrow is the passage to heaven. So I like to have tall, verticalized, narrow spaces to release you into big rooms. And this is a wonderful woman who made the wallpaper out of watercolor paper, which she painted with this sanguine color, which was wonderful. And again, the box bay window had 1 seating room. There was a sofa underneath that huge hanging with more furniture there. So he was an amazing client. I worked with him until the mid-90s. So we had a wonderful relationship. Oh, I forgot, Michael, you wanted me to talk about the lights?
Yes. Of course.
Sorry, I'm sorry. So again, a device, nice to have just a little theater, so I put lights at the bottom of the column. So this is a building very close to Philharmonic Hall, so when you leave the lobby, your budget goes way down. And this is what's called an amenities floor. This is where people living in small New York apartments who can't entertain more than 4 people, they may have 8 friends for cocktails on this floor, and most of them are musicians. So this is the inside of a grand piano, destroyed, and I hung it from the wall on pins. This is an eggplant color vinyl, and this is raincoat fabric. It looks soft, but it really isn't. It's a little version, but you can jump up and down on that. Down here we had a great success. He loved me for this. This was the basement level. So I said excavate, and we did this sunken light port, and this led you on again into hope. You always give a release at the end. And so they started renting this out for birthdays and wedding receptions, so it paid for itself. 2 of the columns were real, and 2 were phonies. So again, to make a room within a room is what I did with these 4 columns. There was seating all the way around on the other side too, and a small kitchen. The glass slid open, and I had water running down the wall to mask the sound of honking taxis and sirens. Now, this is a triumph over cruelty. The building department people, I have a special place, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. This is the 3rd mailroom I had to design for this building, because these nasty little people in the building department with their pockets full of colored pens, they love to say, no. I had done 2 mailrooms. Finally, clients said, John, do what you have to do. So this is a space of glass on a major corner in Manhattan where you would have had Ralph Lauren or some big retail outlet. And to give it up for a mailroom is giving up a lot of money every month in rent. So just to give you some idea, this had to be wheelchair accessible. So a person in a wheelchair, the arms of the wheelchair have to be able to slip under that. These are the mailboxes. This is the light so the mailman can see them. These are alabaster shades. These are the lamps I custom designed. And they go down and are directly wired below. They can never be moved. And then if you hold things, remember 1910 building when we celebrated America? So I got a wonderful man in Alabama, and he painted, this is a mural, of the Hudson River in sepia. And the walls here are done in what's called Roman brick. If you think about it, look inside your mantle, your fireplace, if you have a wood burner. Often the bricks are 13 inches long and only 1.5 inches wide. So that's really like a Roman brick. So that's what I have here. These, you see the thin bricks. Now this is a floating ceiling, and all the air conditioning, heating, sprinklers, all of that is hidden above. And this is a mirror. So it hits the mirror, it drops down, and this is a floating ceiling over. You see just a little piece of a round table, and it has a trash chute. So you open your mail or whatever, and you do it at that table, and you just drop it down to below. So these things take a lot of effort, and with the nasty little building department troll came, and my office used to try to always hide me from these experiences. They would always lie to me and say, we don't know when he's coming, but they did. And so I'm in there, and he's starting to nibble away, and he said, it's too big. Now remember, the first 2 were too small. And you can imagine, I didn't have a day in my life to soothe me. So my anger was such, I said, what else do you do besides create havoc But he left, and this was forward. So, this is an older couple, Palm Beach. I built their house, and I said, well, God, this all has to do, should be aqueous, it's water. And so this is a pair of folding screens in sandblasted glass. The curtains are only open at the end, so you don't give the whole view away at once. But these are like, I thought of this as dragonfly wing. It's just the cheapest kind of woven plastic. And these lights are actually musical symbols hung from the ceiling on transparent fishing dial on porch. And there's up lights on the floor with brown pieces of glass. So they're not on our drinks table, but they put light up, and you don't get the reflection in the glass at night. So this is everything in here is my furniture except this chair and this table. So.
John, I didn't want you to leave without talking about the fact that the ceiling height here is deceptive. It's what, 8 foot?
It's 8'6", and so I overscaled the crown molding because I have hidden behind. It's a very inexpensive way to light a room. You use plug molding with porcelain sockets, and you put in R lamps. You can do 25, I think you get them 7 watts down. And you just string that around the whole room, you don't see them. And what was expensive here was I had the ceiling painted with high gloss paint, and they would sand, and then they would paint it and resand it. So the ceiling was down high. So I wanted that to be a soft, upside down pool. So you see the water above you and below you. It's all psychological. It's to make you feel, I mean, let's be honest, Florida is hot and humid and has bugs, so it's not Montecito, it's not Santa Barbara.
So John,
Yes.
all of these things have been fabulous. Do you ever design anything for someone like me?
Yes. Now, thank you for asking. This is a $100,000 remodeling. So this shouldn't exist. This was done later, but this was basically a humble little track house. And the clients were, I'd say, in their late 20s, and they came to me, and I was too. So, and this is what I did. I took the ceiling off of the track house and exposed all of this, cut in the skylight facing north so you didn't cook in the summer. And all of these were sanded and stained with Olympic stain. I'll never forget, 901 semi-transparent. So, and they had plug molding here and there to light up the whole ceiling at night. So this is the way it was, and it's never been changed from about 1973. Now, before everybody jumped on the bandwagon, I believe I was the first one to use a sliding barn door. So I found this in the barn, brought it to the house, and that became an airlock. In the winter, when people come in and it's 20 degrees out or below, this you keep closed. The fire is going in the fire, but you don't lose all the heat. So that would slide back after you close the front door. And this was the kitchen. Here's the spirited part. Here's another thing I'm just insanely angry about. Every house, especially going to the south, beautiful houses, and the screen door is made of aluminum. It has their nickel in the middle. Break it back. And go to the little nasty trends of what's the matter with making the screen door go all the way up. I gave a lecture in Virginia, and I told them that they should make it a federal offense to have an aluminum screen sash with their initial on it, and anyone who puts azaleas in the balls should go to jail. And the azaleas are so beautiful, and they just grow and bloom, and there's no maintenance, and they were meant, you know, for being out in the open. So this is the bedroom later. This is the second remodeling. There's a little place, you see, to write a thank you note. There's a real fireplace. This opened up, and that was all the stereo control. That carpet, I think, was like $20. It had a hole in it. Well, you just put the chair over it. So that was a 19th century. I bought some of this stuff at tag sales, and I cut the bottom legs off and made it to a tea table. Now this is a house built for a wonderful, wonderful lady and friend of mine for 38 years, and she said to me, John, I want doors like you see in Europe on cathedrals. So this is what the doors look like.
So let me understand, you took a suggestion from a client?
She's very strong. And she has survived me on three different houses anyway.
So she has scar tissue too?
She has scar tissue, definitely. We get along very well because I know that if any time I'm in trouble, I can call her, and she knows that with me too. Anyway, so first of all, I read somewhere in Persian Gardens, they planted herbs. So the Arabs would walk over the herbs and it would release the bouquet while they walked. So I thought, oh my God, let's do this in time. And we did all these stepping stones. But the doors had like 1 foot high copper facings on the bottom. And when the door closes, that sheet of copper runs across. And the door inside, it's a little door like you've seen in cathedrals in Europe. You open the little door and you step over into the house. So that was her idea. I thought it made the house very successful, and long before the millennials had been pounding their chests about recycling, her husband went up to Maine and they bought 2 factories that were being torn down. So this is early 19th century handmade pink brick, which we recycled. This is the inside. So when you find college dropouts living as hippies with long hair and sweatbands, and they are looking to go back to the land, they did all of this with hatchets. This was it was erected, taken apart, and brought from New Hampshire and re-erected again at the end of Long Island. So, I don't make mistakes very often, but occasionally I do. This was originally the size of the fireplace. Well, it wouldn't draw, you just smoked it, so we had to come in and lower it down to here. But everything else is exactly as it was done then. So the house is, 40 years old now, I think. So anyway, this is looking out at the ocean. And again, I like humble with rare. So rare 18th century mirrors done in mercury glass on humble scratch coat plaster. And they all face, you open the doors and the outside becomes inside and inside goes up. And this was a place to sit, but it's the last hope in case you have a tsunami to keep the water out. Because this house was built back from the second dune. And again, you'll see the influence of my training as a minimalist. This is a second floor bedroom, and this is the air return grill here. You notice I don't have the little nasty crown moldings. The crown moldings are robust, and they come down and meet the window or the door. So it's very simple, almost shaken. The walls are very Protestant and white. There's no extra anything. These are American pieces of furniture. This is a tea table and a Windsor here. This is my furniture here. But again, it was the second floor, small sitting room adjacent to the small master bedroom. And I built this here in Santa Barbara. This is a house that had been violated by people who were, shall we say, refugees from the disco era And so when my client bought it, you couldn't figure out how to get in the house because the original entrance was changed. And so all of this is brand new, and the door is brand new. Paul Franz did the most amazing, he's an amazing contractor. Anyway, so all of this was done, and this allows me to hire an elevator that will take you up, or this went into a downstairs. We had a lot of bedrooms here. They had a large family, so we excavated down, we stone lined the entire room, and then you went up to this. Now, if you can imagine, this is first cut California redwood. So this was built as a hunting lot in the early part of the 20th century, very early. And the disco couple had painted all this white. So it took about 6 men and 6 months to get all this off. And Michael Haskell, you know, the antique dealer, he made these for me in Mexico. Notice brown paper shades to give that candle glow to the room. This was the heaviest sisal rug you've ever seen. Now, the windows and the door was here. I pushed them out, so that's the new facade. But that way, you can have, I know you're not supposed to stay in this anymore, but you can have staff walk back, collecting drinks through the dining, and come back out this way. And you don't see any of that. It's all sort of sotto voce behind the scenes. Anyway, there's the space between the living room, and this is a little cozy place for the family to hang out. And I did the walls in, how do you pronounce it again? Gaufrage. Anyway, leather.
Golf, I like a waffle.
Waffle, thank you, Jim. So it's when you take the leather and it's kind of, what do you call it, bas relief. So they press down and you get the same color. So I did the whole room in taupe leather with panels and studded. And all of these, now this is what, still in wine, you have to have a little joke in a building. This is all real bindings, but they're no hooks. These are doors, and they all open, and you have the bar, and the wine bar, and wine storage. So it was a way to make life and take these big houses and do something playful in them. This is the dining room. These were all made in Skokie, Illinois, and brought here. And the tapestry, this is a very large family with lots of children. So during the holidays, the tapestry can be pushed back and the table can be extended through next into this breakfast room. Now, during the mudslide, this whole end of the house was very violated. They lost the cars and the garage, but they've restored it all. And anyway, great clients, and so I've been very lucky. You know, came here in 1989. My late wife and I were going to buy here, and then she died, so I went ahead anyway. And I've met some amazing people. This is home now. Now this was our first house. This was a blacksmith shop in Salisbury, Connecticut, where horses were shod. So this is the end. This was $53,000 in 1970, and you can see the first time I used concealed uplighting on the wooden spandrel. And my son, tiny, then 4 years old, sitting there, we took a photograph, and we had a lot of good time in this house. So,
John,
yes.
let's pause now because we want to know how you got here. What were you like as a child?
Well, my mother's not here to tell you the truth. Anyway, I want to tell you about this. My father was a physician, and we lived a comfortable life, and we had a full-time maid that did not remember. I used to walk with her. I was 8 years old. And my mother paid 50 cents for the trolley car, and I got 50 cents to buy an ice cream cone and a condom. So I'd walk about 4 or 5 blocks with her. Everything was safe. There were no drugs in. So I could go into the drugstore, and I was already strange because I walked country life.
Wait, how old were you?
I was 8. I was a Cub Scout, and I pored over these things, these gorgeous houses. And so, to become a Cub Scout, you had to learn all these crafts. So we made scrapbooks out of plywood, quarter-inch, and you had to drill holes and lash them together with rawhide. And you opened up. All the other boys had their favorite cars, their favorite baseball players, and I had great houses of Europe. Then mother called my mother and said, you know, Mrs. Saladino, we've never had a child like this. It's amazing. And my mother said, yes, he's very difficult. So that love of European scale and European architecture in time gone by was also a conflict with me because I was two people. I grew up where, you know, Kansas City, Missouri was home of the American Royal. It was the last place before you went west. And so here I am trying to be a cowboy with, you know, a lariat. That was in Kelly, Wyoming. Then my son was in summer camp. So the cowboy fantasy came out actually in the first house. You saw the blacksmith shop. You know, that's very west looking. Anyway.
What about the movies?
Oh, the movies. My mother and father, we used to pray, my brother and I, that Saturday night my father would not get an emergency phone call because we got to go out to a movie and dinner. This is 1945, I was 5 years old. So I don't know what possessed my mother, but she dragged us all to see, for me brand new, Gone with the Wind. So when I saw Tara, and you could all be proud because Tara's landscape and all of that was done by, to me, the first women landscape architect who did Rolino here. And it's called Council and Yacht. They're both done. My roommate, junior year, I went to Yale for graduate school 3 years, Notre Dame undergrad, was James Yacht, the grandnephew of Florence Yacht. So anyway, the fantasy of Gone with the Wind, and I'm watching all of this. Well, when the Yankees burnt a lot of Tara, my mother said I became hysterical. Because I didn't understand the story, but I loved that house. I got that taken out of the movie theater. So now, fast forwarding, this is 1979, and now I have my Tara. This is our house. We lived here very happily for 23 years, just to show this detail of classical houses that were built in the 20s. This celebrates ballooning. Look at the window, okay? This is a pediment, and I've planted these two wings with climbing hydrangeas. So you had to constantly keep trimming the back, just for a variety of what color. And I became quite serious about gardening because we have a lot of land. And then when the English came to see the garden, I said, oh my God. And so I remember I had a moss garden, and I had a really hard time with it. And this English lady looking at the garden, she was sort of like this, and she said, you know, God, she said, the secret of a good moss garden is beer. I said, what? Beer. Beer. She said, yes, you spray it all with beer. You know, it likes all that yeast. And it did. And we used to buy cheap beer, and once in a while the gardeners would go crazy because they could bring anything left over. We have the most beautiful moss garden you can imagine. And here's the breakfast room. And this is, again, you see a version of that chair with back pillows. And I bought this Greek Isles terracotta, cost nothing. I put that on here. We had already started collecting Sheila Blue Willow. So, and then the only thing she never quite understood, I had to seal this octagonal room with absolute arches. Imagine what that cost if you had to build it now. And that was the breakfast room. And I said, well, I don't want happy burpy sunlight coming in with little chirping birds. So I did rain clouds moving in from the so anyway, she wouldn't look out. So there's the parable of the dining room, and but the abstraction is still there. The yin yang of what you leave out is more important than what you put in next. And here's side Twombly, not a very good photo, but it's hanging over an oval steel table. I did that collection, which never sold, or done or long gone. It was too modern. And there are my chairs again. And we did periwinkle blue here. It's almost amethyst gray blue. And this was Saladino. And that was the first time I ever done. You could not buy fabrics in 1979 in those colors. So I used to have them made. And this was part of my gardening experience. This was a round garden, all of runners. It was a house that had been closed up for at least 10 years. So I got out with chainsaw and clippers and gloves, and I took out, eviscerated all of the overgrown rhododendrons, making this grotto, and put in a table from India tea table I bought on Brompton Road. And the area is a 13-foot diameter, fountain with a lotus. So we would have tea in here, sweet tea, when it's hot. But the house garden had acres of these fantasies that took me years to create, and that's when it started to become famous. And then we raised a lot of money. And I remember one New York couple, and they were just sort of overwhelmed, and we were standing in the entrance saying goodbye to everyone. And he turned to me, and she said, "Oh my God, this is so beautiful. When I get home, I'm putting a match to everything." And her husband looked at me, he said, "I hope I meet you in the dark alley." Okay, now this was what was originally the drying garden right outside the kitchen window, which we made into herbs and flowers. And this was the winter space. Hold on. I would bring in a lot of things, and we had heaters in there to save the flowers in the winter. So we had two cats. Vanilla was my wife's cat. She was mean, like Joan Crawford. She was completely white and nasty. And my son had given me this gorgeous cat by chance. Turned out to be a thoroughbred, and it was a Russian. It was gray with pale green eyes. And the pussycat would lie here, and because it was cold. So I would mist all this down on the weekend in the morning. This is one of my favorite flowers. This is Campanula medium, Canterbury bills. Anyway, so little sweet gray, never scratched, never bit anybody. Patina was lying there, and Joan Crawford, the white cat, comes by and decided she's just enjoying herself too much. Went back and bit the cat's ear. And I ran out of the house and chased that cat through half the property, caught her, and I bit her ear. And so 3 weeks later, the cat comes up in the kitchen, and the cat knew what cats do. They're whining around her leg. She's being sweet. I said, "Oh, you want to make friends now?" And I reached down the minute she bit me. So now we're in, this is some more scar tissue. My late wife and I found the gorgeous apartment. the end of 52nd Street, right on the water. Mary Martin had died, and her triplex penthouse had come available. It had a fireplace in every room, a pair of double French doors, and it's like a wedding cake. And terraces running over them. She thought we were on an ocean liner. It was $250,000. My wife said, "This is outrageous. We can't afford this. You're not buying it." So, I didn't buy it. I was very angry. I said, "Well, okay, Smarty, you go out and you find me a apartment." Well, she called me up about 3 weeks later, and she's very proper lady. She do this like, "I found something rather interesting. I think you should come now." Well, this was Jay Gould's penthouse. And so we bought this. It was 3 o'clock. Bank of New York had sales, an estate sale. Ran to the bank, asked how much they wanted. They wanted a $50,000 deposit. Did that. And the next morning they had several bids. Anyway, we got the apartment. We lived there for many years. Next, and this is the room. Now, this inspired the room for the house that you first saw, second, third slide, with the high ceiling. So, and this was, by then I had perfected using scratched up plaster. So I didn't want this to look new and ostentatious. So I wanted to look like an old palazzo. And so when the plasterers came, I told them to cover the windows with plastic, seal the door. We're going to put in 3 heaters, run them full blast, and you cannot go to the bathroom. Because once you start plastering, if you get off the scaffolding and come back, you're going to have a line in the plaster. So the rising heat made the plaster cure too fast, and it burned it out. So it looks really old, anyway. There's a high back sofa again, making intimate spaces out of a big room. We had a good life there. Now this is where I'm doing everything. It's way over the top of it. This was actually structural and cased it, but this was the entrance of that apartment with the Jay Gould huge space. So this was steel, and I cased it the door top. So it's like a totem, like a Etruscan mastaba. And I did the ceiling, this oval, in high gloss paint. This is scratch coat, and then this is dull aluminum. And the floor is like an open book, so you have the floor done, marquette that goes back and forth. That door, I was very lucky. We had gone to a drinks party, and I met this older English woman. I just loved her. My wife loved her. And Mary was an aristocrat, and she sold me out of a family house. This was a real out of the drawer. And what made me so happy, when I did my research, the problem has 2 tumors or chimeras or reverend however you wish to have, which was the symbol of a dreamer from Greek mythology. So anyway, that was a wonderful find. She, oh God, anyway, we had somebody left with her. Next. Now you're looking, I went to Simon Capistrano. He was an antique dealer and wonderful taste, Shepherd Durenberger. And I saw this in the back of his yard when he fixed things, and it was the leg bone statue. So I bought that for nothing. I think he gave it to me, and I made a table out of it. And I put this plywood here hooked up with steel, and then a marble top. So it's the coming together of all these found pieces from the past in a new way. This is a plexiglass uplight, lighting, all of this. And I used to, these are altar candles in these glass tubes. This is a miniature, I still own this little convex mirror. So the collecting of things and putting them together. I always said, if you own the Louis Couture signed marble console, you should put glass saucer and a really beat up terracotta pot for the Amarillos. You want to take the thunder out of the palace. So here's California, where I'm connecting us with, I got the idea of this from, when you live in Rome and you go down to see excavated sites, they often just plant it with ivy. This is climbing fig, and I wanted you to think you were sort of this, again, like what Eric said, narrow is the passage to heaven towards the guest house. And this was the small guest house. And this was my second house. Virginia had died. And so you see, it was perfect because I would come for long weeks and go home to New York to work again. Anyway, that was the bedroom. Now, if you live in California and you're lucky enough to find a bust of Sir Francis Drake, he was the first English-speaking person to see the coastline of California. What you do, you get him shades. So, and again, to take a little edge off the pretentiousness of having something so grand. Anyway, now in the garden, water, as we all know, is not easy to come by here. So this was a stream I made out of Saladino. That's a little bridge you cross over. And that went all the way down the slope to a two-tiered fountain, which I set up with recirculating water until the driveway was about a quarter of a mile long of the villa. And I used to walk it twice to get exercise. And I walked down, and I went, oh no, there was a bear drinking. So I drained the fountain. And that got Saladino also. Anyway, there was the interest. So making this was a lot of work. So I bought from Somos, California, I hope it's still there, a wonderful, wonderful nursery called Burlwood. And Burlwood was a nursery that sold state-scale plants. He had just sold all his Italian cypresses to Bellagio, the gambling place. And I said, no. He said, well, you liked me, so he said, come around, I'm going to show you something. So he had his best ones hoarding them. He was hoarding them. He sold them to me. And but remember, the poles here cost more than the trees. It was $7,000 a hole. It was 7 by 7 feet, and then drains and French drains and ventilators and fine cable, but everything made it, and it was a wonderful place to live. And there was an entrance, not the entrance, the atrium of the house. This was originally all open in the 30s and late 20s. People thought taking fresh air on the way to the bedroom at night was very healthy for you. Well, I didn't think it was so healthy. I thought it was cold, so all of this was redone. I bought 14,000 antique roof tiles from a place in California called Exquisite Surface. And we ended up with only one brick left over. So it took 4.5 years. This is the retaining wall, and then I re-fantasized it as the Cascade at Villa d'Este, all done in plans. So it's cascading down, but in false scale. So this is much smaller than these to make you think they're much further away. I do believe I think lying when you're doing design is success. And this was the way I furnished it. So there's the Twombly from Robin Neal, and this is the sofa, new sofa now with studs. And
Well, I also wanted to talk about the Twombly here, but then on the other part of the wall, you have the great map of Rome. And for someone to put those two pieces together, because they have a dialogue between them, even though they're centuries apart.
there was, I had found, I was 19, I'm in Los Angeles. That was the time I went to Solomon Stone and got the leg. So I'm 19, and I go into a wonderful bookstore called Zeitlin in Monroe, and I see this map. It's Pyrenees. It's about 5 feet square, and it's dedicated to Roberto Adamo, Robert Adam Arquitecto Puritano, so it's British. And so he sold it to me for $300 and let me pay for it $50 a month. People did that then, you know. So I know it's gone. And I believe there's two other people only one was Louis Kahn and I think Bisbandero, and I have the rest. So this was the Villa Kitchen. Now the fun part of this, I was going crazy trying to make a kitchen on three rooms. So these are all the original beams. This is all done in dull stainless steel. And this is a false situation. These are 2 refrigerators with doors in Sub-Zero made them, with pull-out doors. But this is a Sub-Zero door that opens to a catwalk and takes you down into the computer room. There's the staircase going down to the computer room. So, and this was the bedroom. I had to pull the wall forward to conceal the air conditioning. And oh my God, there were so many problems when you live with a lot of land and you live that high up on Ladera. It's kind of in the jungle. So anyway, I bought the marble bathtub in Belgium at what's his name? I still remember. Yeah. And this was Theron and Company, gone again. All these places are gone in Los Angeles. This is a railroad column, and I put that as a sentinel in the garden. Stairs go down to a lower level. The house, the villa was again like a wedding cake. It kept descending. It was an exhausting house to live in. I ultimately had to sell it. It seemed too old. I had this knee replaced. Anyway, I enjoyed it a lot. Now, what? What is it now? The man owns Netflix.
The thing that you can't see from these images is how you feel when you're in one of John's spaces, especially in one of his gardens. And I can still remember the day, quite a few years ago on New Year's Day, you invited us to spend the day in the garden. And at sunset, the sun set right on top of that column. And you never forget something like that.
Well, we never be too calculated. So now we're home, we're in Burnham Wood, and oh my God, I hate sitting in the sun. I wanted to shade. I wanted to face north. I got the house facing the mountain, so I didn't have enough land, so I made columns of stainless steel, and Paul Franz built all this, but the marble bracelets that went around were all made in Italy out of granite, honed granite. So we wrapped the honed granite around the stainless steel. I had to rip up a swimming pool, go down 4 feet to meet seismic code, and so it was a journey that I am so happy that I stuck with it, because I lived there, and this is obviously my last residence, but what I always love to do is to take something formal and then create a painterly interruption. So the gray plants I did here in the Italian garden, you would never see California agaves or any of that. So that was my merging of the old world with the new world.